She's every man's dream and your worst nightmare. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer. It's pretty good. I back it.
Just I feel like it would make more sense if it said she's every man's best dream.
She's every man's dream and your worst nightmare.
I think it should say and their worst nightmare. I don't care about her.
It clearly wasn't very good because Katie immediately forgot it.
I just like it because it's extremely like late 80s, early 90s like tagline.
Yeah, for sure.
This is episode 95 of I Hope You Suffer. We're three tough cookies.
Oh, what kind of cookie are you?
Birthday cake.
Oh, okay.
What about you?
Snickerdoodle.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say Snickerdoodle.
Kid is definitely Snickerdoodle.
Gotta be fast.
Katie is
oatmeal raisin.
I was gonna say rum raisin, but I don't know if that's even a cookie, so.
It's a flavor. It's an ice cream flavor.
Ice cream cookie.
There was this place that used to make fresh cookies, like where we used to live, and they did like a cookies and cream cookie. That was like the best thing I ever have had. All cookies are good cookies in my mind, though.
I feel like I would be perfectly fine if we just talked about cookies for the next hour.
I'm so in.
I mean, for real.
Oreo has these like chocolate marshmallow Oreos now, and they blew my mind. Let's talk about those for an hour.
What?
I've been looking for, I think this one's been out for a while, but they have like a caramel coconut one that I want so bad.
Oh yeah, I think those ones like aren't vegan.
Sucks for you.
Meh.
More for me.
I get Oreos and then like I'll eat like the whole thing and then I'm like don't want Oreos again for like a year.
That's why I liked when like they come out with all those special flavors, like I think there was a hot cocoa one or something, and they make them in like this like half packs or whatever. That's like perfect for me because like, yeah, we do the same thing where we just like eat a bunch of them, and then it's at least you're not eating like an entire family pack of like Oreos. But
that's what I do. I'm like, I'll eat the whole pack, and I'm just like, I don't want Oreos for a long time.
It was too much.
It's like, usually it's like the first two you eat, you're like, these are really good, and then you're just like, okay, the rest of these are trash, I don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
It's me with fudge stripes.
Ooh, I like those.
I feel like
they're delicious for half a sleeve, and then you gotta power through the rest of the sleeve.
I feel like that's pretty much just every cookie that's not like a homemade cookie.
Yeah, well, because they have so much sugar in them, it's like, for me, I eat like 5 of them, and I'm like, ugh. Cannot.
There's I don't know what the brand is. I know, I think Target has them here. They're like a vegan gluten-free cookie, which usually aren't good, but these ones are actually like pretty fucking good. But they have a birthday cake one that's got like big-ass sprinkles in them. They're really fucking good. Oh, God,
welcome to our new podcast, I Hope You Cookies.
Yeah. Three Tough Cookies, the podcast.
That's actually pretty good.
TM.
Even though I prefer soft cookies and not crunchy cookies.
Yeah, chewy cookies are the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I hope you suffer what. We are talking sort of about 1990s Death by Temptation.
A film about cookies.
Was a film I saw in like 99 and I thought I liked, and I was very wrong.
You didn't like it?
This was fucking boring as shit. I also like couldn't hear any of the dialogue, and there was no subtitles on the video I watched. So like I don't know what happened in this movie.
I had that problem too, where there was like no subtitles, and the people literally when they talk are like like whispering to each other, and then the music's like, I have to say, of all the movies that we've covered so far, I think this is my favorite soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack is fucking incredible.
But to the point, the music was like very loud, and a lot of this movie takes place in a bar, so it's like, I don't know, they're like, and it's like wow, 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 like really loud.
The whole movie took place in like 4 locations. It was like a bar, the vampire's house, like the dude's apartment, and then a church.
And all of those locations are just absolutely drowned in fog.
And neon.
In neons, yeah. I think, I mean, it was kind of boring, I guess. I think that for me, I did like the movie actually, but because the dialogue wasn't loud and I couldn't really hear what they were saying, that to me took away from the movie. Like, I don't know that I would say it's boring, but it was definitely hard to like stay invested.
That was why I think I found it boring. Is I was like, I just ended up spending most of the movie like looking at Twitter because I was like, I can't hear what it was saying, but if I turn it up super loud, there was a fucking commercial every 5 minutes, so like it would just blast the fucking commercial, and I was just like, I just am not paying attention to this anymore. It's like I can't.
Yeah, I will say, I do think that the movie had a lot of really cool shots in it, and like the lighting, so I felt like was pretty cool. But I don't really understand. So like, I thought this was just a vampire movie, and it's like definitely not a vampire movie in the sense of that it's like, it's not. She's like a succubus.
Yeah, basically.
And so they don't really establish any rules for her because, like, sometimes she's like a crazy fuzzy creature, and sometimes she's like the haunted mask from Goosebumps, and sometimes she's just like a sexy lady. And I'm like, and sometimes she's like a skull with like eyes and teeth. So like, I don't really understand. I don't know if it was supposed to be like she's getting more powerful, so like how she appears is. I have no idea. I just like wasn't really sure what was going on with her.
Kit, what did you think?
I thought it was okay. Like, I didn't have strong feelings one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm at.
There were some really funny moments, like whenever Bill Nunn was like sitting at the bar by himself, just
God.
Talking about butts
and like hitting on ladies.
Yeah, the nuclear butt or explosive booty, like
the only note I took.
Anytime like him and Kay were like together at the end, were like my favorite.
So like, I had only seen this because I had like a period, and probably like maybe like between like 2000 2005 where I would just buy like any DVD that Troma put out, and this was one of them. I think I'd only watched it like once. And like, I don't remember anything except the end of it, but I also feel like that's because they used the shot where it's like the monster mask, but it's like the fucking like inverted colors and shit on it.
Yeah.
Like, they use that in a lot of their ads, even to this day. And I swear, like, because when I looked at IMDb, like, I swear Troma used to, like, promote this as, like, Samuel L. Jackson's first movie, which it is not.
I mean, okay. That's why, so the poster on IMDb is, like, actually the main characters. It's Joel, Kay, and the Temptress, right? But the poster that they have on the Troma YouTube is literally, like, the monster in the background and then like Samuel L. Jackson.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. And he's like in the movie for like 10 minutes and it's the same. It's like almost the same scene that they just like reuse. And I was like,
They were really good about, and I think they probably still do it, but they would acquire movies. Like they have, I think the movie was called Sizzle Beach USA. That was like Kevin Costner's first movie or whatever. And like they have a movie called Monster in the Closet that like Fergie from fucking Black Eyed Peas acted in when she was a little kid, and like they'll get movies like that because there's like these movies that'll go out of print that a lot of these like now stars don't want people to see, and they're just like, fuck that, I can make money off this.
Yeah.
And so like I swear I remember they used to like promote this as like Samuel Jackson's first acting role, and then I looked it up on IMDb and I was like, oh, he had like at least 15 things before this.
Well, I was very misled.
Even like including like a Spike Lee movie, it wasn't even close.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he was in Do the Right Thing the year before.
Yeah.
Whoops.
What's wild to me is him and Bill Nunn went from Do the Right Thing the year before to this.
So I feel like this was a movie that probably was shot before that,
like
but
way
maybe
before.
just took a long time to get edited and shit.
Right.
Because like, I mean, the movie like, it looks dated, but it's also 1990. You know, it's like 30 years ago. But
Right.
I mean, it's like it's put together well, and it doesn't necessarily look bad. Like it looks like a low budget movie from 1990.
It looks like a TV movie for the 90s. You know?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
It's not bad.
I think that's part of like the thing I liked about it was it had that like charm to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, also it's like James Bond the Third. He was like the director, the main character, the writer. So like,
Which never turns out super great for anybody. Like, I feel like Kit and I have talked about it before because we've covered a couple movies where it's like that, and I'm just like, it always lacks. Like, it could have been better if they like picked just anybody else to be like the main actor.
You need someone in there to tell you like, hey man, don't. You know?
and like,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to be fair, like his acting to me, he was not this. Like, I feel like a lot of the actors in this, so like Bill Nunn, Kay, the Temptress, I felt like were really good, and then he was just sort of like, I'm a minister, and he was I don't know, there was just something. I think he just had too much going on.
Yeah, like it's always when it's something like that, something is always lacking. It's either the script is not good, or like the direction wasn't good, or just the acting wasn't good. Like, I feel like one of the things that like somebody like Kevin Smith did, where he's in all of his movies, but he's like he's like a small role, or he's at least the role that like he's Silent Bob. He's not saying a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say he doesn't really speak.
So it's just, I don't know, like there's...
But Joel's like the main character, yeah. I would say, so... I think
I feel like that's what usually is like the part that like lacks in a movie when it's like directed, written by, and stars is usually like the acting, unless you're like Tommy Wiseau.
I feel like the other thing for me that didn't work for this movie is that like we're towards the end of the movie when like shit goes off the rails, so to speak, like when they figure out about like what's going on with the succubus, and you're like seeing why she's trying to like get Joel or whatever. None of that stuff.
Can you explain to me what that was? Because I did not hear any of it.
Okay. Why don't we just skip? So basically the premise of the movie is like in the very beginning you get this bartender in New York, who I thought was going to be the main character, but he's not. And basically like this lady picks him up. They go back to her place, which her place is literally just like a big bed, and
big foggy bed.
A big foggy bed with candles, and they get sexy, and she like, I'm not really sure even what happened here. So she like leads him into the shower by putting his belt around his neck, which, and then the shower water just like turns to blood, and he like freaks out, and then it's like very obvious that she's like eating him or doing something to him, but I'm not really sure like why that happened or how or whatever. And then we get introduced to Joel, who's the main character, and so like basically he's living with his grandparents because his parents have died, and they died in a car accident because his dad, who is Samuel L. Jackson, like hits some lady who, first of all, it's nighttime. She's like crossing some random back like woods road wearing all black, and he doesn't see her and he hits her, and I guess they all die. And so this like black shrouded lady is like following Joel the whole time, and somehow it's, I don't know, towards the end you get the feeling that the temptress is like, I don't know, is she connected to the temptress, or like was that her mom or something? Like, I don't really understand what that has to do with anything, unless it's just supposed to be like she's a bad omen trying to say that like something bad is going to happen to Joel. Because then so we go through a few people, right, of the temptress just like sexing people up and eating them, except for this like guy who we do see the next day. He ends up like leaving afterwards, but she's like laughing. She also like randomly has demon voice, so she's like talking normal and then she laughs and she's like ho ho ho, like demon voice. And she says that the guy is basically like has cheated on his wife, and they're just like, she's like scratched him or something, and he's like, what how am I going to explain this to my wife? And then she says, I gave you something there's no cure for. And then she's like laughing and stuff, and he's like, oh no, man. And I don't know, he looks in the mirror and he's like messed up. He's got like a rash or something. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand what's going on with that. Because as far as I know, we don't see him again. I don't know. My other problem with this movie is that there were so many characters in the beginning that like, I don't know if they came back, but there's just so many that I couldn't like, there just were a lot of people, like in the bar or whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't hear any of the dialogue. Like bits and pieces would come through, because it was just another one of those movies where it was like you said, like the songs in it were so loud, and then like the dialogue was super low, and then like YouTube for some reason, and like the version I watched had a ad every 5 minutes, so like you would be in the middle of like somebody giving like a speech, and it would just like cut in the middle of a sentence, and I was just like, God damn it, like.
But then when it came back, sometimes like the same thing happened to me, and then when it would cut back to the movie, sometimes like it wouldn't even pick up directly where like Tubi does that, but it, even if it cuts off in the middle of a sentence, it still continues like what that person was saying.
Well,
so
Tubi knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so while basically half of the movie is just the sex demon, we find out she does not even have a name. They call her Temptress, or she's Temptation or something like that.
Yeah, my understanding was that her like name was supposed to be Temptation.
Right. So the first half of the movie is just like her seducing people and people going missing, and then Dougie, who is this guy at the bar, is always at the bar hitting on ladies and saying the most ridiculous stuff.
The spelling of his name bums me out.
I don't like it, but I also don't like the name Dougie. I don't like when people have names that like they just add Y's at the end of. I mean, my name's Katie, but it's not like Nathy or, well, Kitty.
Kitty.
That's what my mom calls it.
Sigh.
You know what I mean, though. Like, yeah, I don't like Dougie. So then also during this time, Joel basically calls his friend Kay and is like, hey, I'm going to be a minister, but I need to take a break to make sure this is what I want to do. Can I come visit in New York? And Kay's like, yeah, man, come over. And so this is when we're introduced to Kay, right? So he comes into the bar and sits with her. I could not hear a single thing they said to each other.
Yeah, this was one of those scenes that was like really bad about the dialogue.
Well, and then also, like, we kind of see some of her, like, temptation powers, right? Because there's, like, this really weird scene of, like, there's, like, a saxophone guy soloing in her bedroom, and they're, like, on the bed eating grapes and stuff, but it was just, like, a daydream, and I was like, oh, okay.
When did The Lost Boys come out?
89?
Oh,
89.
I wonder somebody's got a lawsuit on their hands.
It's 87, yeah. I mean, this guy was just like a normal saxophone player. He wasn't,
He was not sexy.
No. He wasn't doing work. He was just like a silhouette, so we don't even know who he is. And so Joel and Kay are finally reunited, and all the stuff with them like doesn't really. They're just like talking to each other. Like they used to be in ministry school together. I get, preschool, and Kay left to become an actor, I guess, and so they talk. I wrote they talk about Reaganomics, as you do, and Kay basically is just like, oh hey, let's go to this bar, and Joel's like, I don't drink, and Kay's like, well, you can't.
Was Reagan president in '90? I don't think he was. Was he?
I don't know.
No, it was like
Bush senior,
early '80s or mid '80s. Yeah, so it would have been Bush senior.
Yeah, because then the Clinton was '92.
Yeah.
Kay had like a blow-up doll or something of Reagan in his apartment or something. I don't really understand.
That's unfortunate.
Extremely weird.
Then there's like this weird scene where the Temptress has like given this guy her number so that she could go flirt with Kay or whatever, and then he just like shows up at her apartment and she is like crazy. She's like yelling at him and she's mad and she's like beating him up and all this stuff. And I was like, okay. And she's like, nobody comes here unless I bring them here. And I'm like, well, I guess. So I guess this is like where we see she's like, this is the scene where she's like, it's just like a silhouette because she's in her like covered bed or whatever, and she's like a hairy like werewolf looking thing almost. So that's why I'm like not really sure. And Kay and Joel are gonna go to the bar even though he doesn't drink. I said that. And then there's like a little getting dressed montage of Joel trying on outfits, which is always one of my favorite things in movies.
Yes, more montages.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Temptress is getting magic dressed. She just like, her clothes are just like sliding on her, and she's just like.
One of like the only trivia things on IMDb was how they like was about like the pantyhose or whatever going up her leg without touching them, and it was just like they just used like hooks attached to like a pole or something. I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Right. I wish you could have like seen the string or something. Okay, so this part is really weird because Joel and Kay, okay, I don't even know what happened, but Joel's standing in there and Kay comes up to him and he's like, hey, and he was like, hey, I met somebody. And it turns out to be Temptress, and she just like pretends that she doesn't know who Kay is. And I'm like, okay, this is really a weird twist. Don't really understand what this is all about. And Dougie is basically just like, hey, like, do you see that lady? She's got, I think this was a different part, but I remember him saying she's got spooky eyes, and he tries to like warn Kay about the Temptress, and Kay is just like, and then like grills Joel about whether he's gonna sleep with her or not, and Joel's like, no, I can't sleep with her. I can take care of myself, but just let me do what I need to do or whatever. And they're just like, bros after that. And I'm also like, why didn't Kay tell Joel at that point, like, hey, this was the girl I told you I met. I don't know why she's acting like she doesn't know me. Because they're like, I don't know. That whole like thing is weird to me. I don't really understand. This is when the Temptress is just like, talking to her pet snake and crying blood. I don't know.
As one does.
Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday, it's fine. And then Grandma is like holding a picture of Joel as a baby, and his eyes bleed blood. Also, the blood looks really similar to Bones. I was like, okay, so yeah, it was just like the way, I guess. So then the next day, the Temptress like shows up at the apartment to go on a date with Joel, and Kay is like pissed, and he's like, why are you pretending like you don't know me? And she's like, "Rrr," and she's mad, she's scary. And he looks in the mirror and notices that she doesn't have a reflection. But Joel doesn't notice somehow, and they just like leave together. Kay is like, okay, something is crazy with this lady, right? So he goes to talk to Dougie about it. And then Dougie is just like, oh, yeah, I know. I work for the paranormal FBI. Like, she's a demon, dude. and I've been tracking her. And Kay's just like, all right. So then they like buddy. Like this is like this is the subplot I want, just like a buddy comedy with Dougie and Kay being like
Yes.
paranormal FBI and sidekick.
That would have been a perfect sequel.
Yeah. Joel and the Temptress are like on a date to this coffee shop that only has one table in it for some reason. And she like asks him about him becoming a minister, and he's kind of like, I definitely didn't tell you that I was going to be a minister. And she's just like, I've traveled a lot of places and I've met a lot of ministers. And I was like, I don't think that's how that works. But he just totally buys it. Because she's using her seducey powers on him. Dougie and Kay go to see a psychic, and I wrote, she says a bunch of stuff that basically means that this is when you find out that her name is Temptation, and that it is just an evil entity that uses seduction to destroy souls. And it's an ancient demon, and I might have made this part up, but I think she said that the reason that Temptation needs to destroy a pure soul in order to gain full power or something, which is Joel, because not only is he like a pure soul because he hasn't like done any quote unquote done any sins, and he's like going to be a minister, and for some reason also the point that he's the last of his bloodline, and I'm like, okay, but what does that have to do with like his parents dying having hit that lady? Like that's the part I just like don't really get.
Yeah, I don't know. I could not hear any of this, so this is all news to me. I'll buy it.
Okay. I guess. And so like I don't know if like maybe he hit that lady to try and maybe that lady killed his parents so that he would become the last of the bloodline, and she's just been like stalking him this whole time, like, and she's what brought him to New York, I guess. Let's just go there.
Did you guys know Samuel Jackson was in the 911 as a joke Public Enemy video?
No.
Also, The Exorcist 3.
Did not.
Oh.
Yes, I did know that.
I don't remember that. All right, anyway.
This is my favorite part of the movie because Dougie literally, like, very matter-of-factly asks the psychic if they could defeat Temptation by spraying her with holy water that's just been anointed, cutting out her heart, and burying it in hollowed ground. And it's just, like, very matter-of-fact. She's like, yeah, can we just, like, do this? And Kay is like, that is some freaky shit. Do we really have to do that? But the way that he like delivers the line and in his facial features was just, I was like cracking up. It's so funny.
Yeah, that part's pretty good.
Then the Temptation, like the Temptress, like is like, oh, excuse me, and like goes into the bathroom and starts like roaring, and now talks through the psychic to Kay and Dougie, and are like, I don't know what she even said. Probably stop. Leave me alone, like let me be evil, typical sex demon things.
Yeah.
Pretty standard.
This is the first time Temptation comes back out, and she's like, I'm sorry, I have to leave, and then she like kisses Joel, and Joel is very bothered, as in hot and bothered. It's probably his first kiss, Then this part I thought was pretty cool. Joel's grandmother has a dream basically about Joel being in the bar and everybody is zombies ? Everyone's faces are all like messed up and there's like groaning and yelling, and like the woman in black is there.
Maybe they're just tired.
I mean, probably.
My face is pretty messed up when I'm tired.
But the bartender from the very beginning is there looking all fucked up, and he goes, "One Bloody Mary coming up," and he just like throws up into this glass and then just like hands it to him. And I was like, oh my god, yes. And then they start chanting, "Come to the fold, come to the fold." And And I wrote, you can see a silhouette of her face and it's fucked up. So, like, this is the point where I'm confused because I don't know if Temptation is this woman in black, but the woman in black is like a weird, like, skeleton dog thing. But sometimes Temptation is like a weird dog creature, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't. None of it makes sense.
So then Kay like confronts Joel about the fact that Temptation's a murderer or whatever, and Joel's just kind of like, I don't know. I just wrote Joel gives him a speech because I couldn't really hear anything that he was saying. But I did like the whole time that he's like giving him this speech, Kay is just like cleaning a knife off on his hoodie, like real cash. And then he's just like, Joel, go home. And he leaves. And then Joel turns and there's just like one drop of tear like running down his cheek. And I was like, okay. And then Kay calls Joel's grandmother and they have a conversation that on purpose we don't hear. It's just like music at this point. And Kay and Dougie go to the bar and ask the current bartender if they will. Oh, they're like, hey, do you know that lady, that creepy lady? And he's like, yeah, she's the only one in there right now. And so Dougie's like, hey, can you take this holy water and put it in her drink? And the bartender's like, heck yeah, I can do that. He seems like very excited. So he goes in there and like makes her a drink and is like very suspicious looking. He's like got his back to her and he's like making the drink and like pouring the holy water in, but like looking over his shoulder like all the way. Very suspicious. And she drinks it anyway and she starts like freaking out. There's like some poltergeist stuff that happens, like things are exploding and there's like chairs happening and I just like I don't really
I like that they use the same bottle exploding 4 times in a row.
Yes.
In some ways, I don't know if that would be creepier if the bottle like exploded and then like was normal and then exploded. I don't know. They're like, we only have money for this one bottle. It's fine.
We can only afford one glass bottle, okay?
Just like move it down the shelf and then we'll just. So then Dougie comes in and like gets on top of the temptress and tries to like stab her with the knife, but the knife like turned into him and they're like struggling and then I literally like looked down to right and then looked up and they were like outside of the bar, so I don't really know what happened. Temptress gets up and is like really evil now. She's like growling. Oh, I do remember it. I think it's in the scene where she like, no, maybe it's later. They do this thing where it's like only half of her face is like lit in red light and then the rest is all like black and it was really cool looking. Oh, and then they walk, they like come out of the club and their car is just gone. I was like, okay. And so they decided that they're just gonna split up. And seems like a bad idea, but that's fine because they can't decide like which way to go down the street. And I think Kay says like, Dougie, I'll see you later, and they just like split up. And I was like, So Dougie, question mark, gets chased by a car or something, runs up to another car and says, I'm a police officer, open up. And I was like, I don't really know if that would work, but gets in this car and right. And it's the bartender and he looks back and he's got like goofy Halloween teeth in and he's like, oh, and he's like holding the holy water. Like, I guess he just like pretended to put holy water in there because he's a minion. And so like this is the part that I'm confused about too, because like they made it seem as if, if it was like a typical vampire movie, she would like bite them and turn them into her minions or whatever. But like we really only see that one new bartender, right? Like none of the other people come back as minions. So that's another part. I guess it's hard for me because I don't understand what her powers are. It's just like another one of those movies where like everything, she can just do anything. Yeah, he's just some kind of ghoul. And then this is where the woman in black is in the back seat, and this is where she's like a weird looking teeth eyeball dog or something, and she like roars at Dougie, and so he's probably dead. I guess we don't see it, cuts away.
R.I.P.
Okay.
to a real one.
Yeah, for real. We're about to RIP to the second real one here. Spoilers. So Kay comes back to his apartment, and I love him because he's immediately like doing karate around the corner to like make sure no one sneaks up on him. And then
Smart.
and then he like gets a 40 from the fridge, and like this part was like sort of weird. So while this is happening, we get it like switches back and forth between Kay being at his apartment and Joel going to talk to the temptress. And they're like making out, and Joel's like, no, I cannot, I am pure. He doesn't say that, but and then so Kay is like drinking his 40, and then he hears talking in the other room, so it's his TV. And this is just the weirdest thing that for me, this is like the weirdest scene in the movie. So he gets a knife, because he's smart, gets a knife, goes into the other room, and one of his movies, I guess, is playing on the TV, and then somehow he gets eaten. He eats himself. His mouth on the TV, like, bites him and pulls him into the TV, like, and then spits out just like a bunch of blood and guts and like rib bones from a chicken. And I was like, but it was done very strange. Like, I'm not really understanding what's happening here, but
big
and then
energy going on.
I was surprised by how good it looked.
Yeah, it actually
considering
looks
the
decent.
budget of this film. Yeah,
for sure. And then the only part in this movie that freaked me out is what happens right after this. So the screen goes all white, and then there's just like a face that presses against it, and it kind of like comes out, and the way that it screams just like really unsettled me. I really hated it, and then he's just gone, and I was like, okay, see ya.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say it's also real creepy how the like screen wrapped into the mouth as it screamed. Like, I hated that.
Yeah,
I hated that a lot.
I didn't like it, and I have to say I did not expect Kay to get eaten by himself in a TV for sure. So like during this time, Joel basically the temptress is like trying to get him to drink, and he's like, no, I don't do that. And she like keeps trying. She's like really trying to peer pressure him, and he's just like, no, I don't. So she like takes some of the wine into her mouth and just like spits it into his mouth via pretending like she's making out with him. And she's obviously like drugged the wine or something, so now he's all drugged, which, man, if you don't drink and you have wet red wine and there's like drugs in it, oh man, you're not in for a good time. So
I don't remember literally anything you're talking about right now.
Well,
this is all news to Nathan.
Yeah, I don't. I've now seen this movie at least twice, and none of this sounds familiar.
well, the rest of the movie from this point on makes no sense to me. I mean, I know I've said that, but like,
or anyone, really.
Because it's like, okay, so Joel wakes up and he's in his childhood bedroom, and his dad, Samuel L. Jackson, who was a minister before him, because we get the movie basically opens with like,
real quick, can we talk about how Samuel L. Jackson's character's name is Garth?
What?
Minister Garth.
Minister Garth. I love it.
What the fuck?
Not a
That's
swing
more-
of
that's
once
more-
in this entire movie.
Minister Garth. Yeah, we get this like scene that we see a few times where Samuel L. Jackson is like giving a sermon, and like, number one, I don't really know anything about sermons. I'm sure that the sermons were placed in a manner that made sense, because like we see it in the beginning, we see it, throughout to the ending of this movie, but I couldn't really hear what he was saying, so so Minister Garth shows up and basically like yells at Joel and is like, you're a fornicator and you're a piece of crap and blah blah, yelling at him, like a minister dad would, I guess. But it's actually Temptress the demon. Surprise. Then all of a sudden, Grandma busts in, and we're actually still in like the Temptress's bed apartment. And Temptress uses her powers to like throw Grandma into the wall. And I don't really. So Joel wakes up from his spell that he was in, and he like struggles against her. She just like breaks his wrist for some reason, and then throws him into the wall. And I just wrote, I'm not really sure what's happening here, because there's a scene where the Temptress is like looking back and forth between, where she's just thrown the two people. They're in the opposite sides of the room. So she's like looking back and forth between them and roaring, and then like her face is contorting sort of, but she kind of looks like an alien thing. Like, I don't really know. I don't know if maybe she was trying to like decide who she was going to go for, or if they're like, because the whole point of this is that the grandma is like, she's trying to test your fate. And so like, I don't know if it was just like her powers were being like overtaken because they just really love Jesus. I don't really know. And then there's also this like weird scene where she's like flying in the air for a long time, and I'm not really sure like what was going on with that. But then Temptress, finally gets to her destination after 10 minutes of just sort of like hovering, and she decides that she's going to choke Grandma out. This is where we get like the dad's sermon, and I don't really know where a cross came from, but there's like a cross on the floor. And so Joel is like crawling across the bed to get to the cross that's on the other side of the ground, and there's like pocket sand floating everywhere. Like, I'm not really sure. It's like really windy. There's sand everywhere. I assume it's from someone's pockets. I don't really know. But Joel eventually just like exorcises Temptress, and her head explodes, as is prone to happen. And we see her face. She's like melted and goopy, all over the floor. And this
really
is like
solid goo pile.
Yeah, green goo. We got green goo this time. I feel like not a lot of people go with green anymore because you expect it, but we got some here.
Solid classic choice.
Give me the classic slime.
Yeah. So like that, and that's like one of the things that the scene that you were talking about earlier where it was like black and white demon, and that's why I'm so confused, because she's like a sexy lady. She's like a werewolf. She's maybe the dog eyes person also. She's this crazy alien sculpt face, but then when she's like in a pile, she like, and then she's black and white demon thing, which looks different than the green goo pile is like also a demon. So I'm just like, I don't understand like what's going on here, but she's gone. Grandma hugs Joel and then nods at him like, good job, son. You did it. You can be a minister now. This was just all his ministry test.
What?
So she set it up. Jokes, it was candid camera. So
Bob Saget comes out from America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah. So then we see a limo pull up, and it's K ? And he's a vampire chauffeur. He just like smiles, and he's got vampire teeth. And Dougie gets out of the car, and I guess you don't know it's him. A guy gets out of the car and goes into the bar to like hit on this girl, and she lights his cigarette, and it's Vampire Dougie, and Vampire Dougie says, "You should use a cigarette lighter next time. The flame lasts longer." And then Joel gives some sort of sermon that I couldn't hear what he was saying because he was whispering, and he's just like running in a misty street. The end.
Finally.
What?
I don't.
So,
I don't understand any of that.
I don't either.
It almost feels like it was just like trying to be arty for arty's sake.
Yeah.
But
like,
I also am dumb, so who knows? It could be extremely obvious
So that's
and
what
stupid.
that's what I was saying, that like there are a lot of I mean, obviously this is a movie about, Joel's faith, right? So there is a lot of kind of symbolism. There's like one scene where there's like I don't really know why this would be in our house, but there's just like a scene where there's like there's like one light source in the room, and it's like shining in like the symbol of a cross or whatever. And I just, not being able to hear what they were saying, I just feel like I missed all of that, and so like I just don't really understand. Maybe some of the things that they said explained what ended up happening, but like I'm just like, I don't know. The last like 30 minutes of the movie was just like all this random stuff happening that I just don't understand. But that being said, like I said, I did like the movie. I liked it more before I started telling you what was wrong with it.
I
But
mean, it's fine. Like, it's on YouTube, so you can watch it for free. I wouldn't suggest paying for it.
yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, it was enjoyable. It was like a 90s movie.
Yeah, I feel like you have to have a very specific taste to be like wanting to watch it. Or if you just want to see Samuel L. Jackson for like 3 minutes with Samuel L. Jackson with hair.
And
Oh,
hear him say fornicator.
yeah, that's right. He does.
All right. Weekly Zach Baggins tweet.
This week really was just, I enjoyed that. Have you guys watched Ghost Adventures ever?
Yeah, I've seen episodes. I've seen like before he had to start wearing the gas mask, so it's been a long time, but
I just love that he's really like the gas mask thing always made me laugh because he's been doing it for like a very long time, and he's always like, I have a breathing condition, aka he's got asthma, and he's been doing it. And there's like, I totally understand if I was like going down in some musty
yeah, some
old
place
like,
full of like asbestos and shit.
yeah, like a sanatorium basement, like, or whatever, I totally get it. But there's like some instances where it just like looks ridiculous because he's just like standing there, everyone else is just like standing there like normal, and he's just got this huge ass like gas mask, and he's just like, so do the demon touched you? He touched you? What did he say? Like, it's just like very funny. And I think it's hilarious that he's like, I did it. He like really is trying to whatever. But my favorite thing that he did this week was just tweeting the opening to his show.
What?
So yeah, so he was like, there are things in this world that we will never
no.
fully understand. And then other people were responding to the, because it echoes, it's like, understand. And he was like retweeting it, and he just like tweeted the opening to his show. So I just thought that was funny.
Oh, very weird. I got 2 weekly world news ones real quick.
Hell yeah.
First one, soy milk turns boy into warthog.
Oh.
Yeah,
Not
that
a,
happens.
Checks
not
out.
a soy hog.
And, to get very political, Bigfoot accepts Batboy commits to his VP selection. So
Yes.
Bigfoot is the vice presidential candidate with Batboy.
Securing my
Finally.
vote.
Oh, for sure. Their logo is the 2020 with one of the O's as a bat and the other O is a giant foot.
Hell yeah.
Do they have T-shirts?
Oh
I need
yeah,
one.
you could buy a shirt because like the logo is, it's like Batboy 2020, right wing and left wing.
Oh my god. Wasn't Bigfoot missing? Who was missing?
I think Bigfoot was missing for a while.
And he's just gonna come back and just not explain where he was.
Let's see.
He had to go away for a while so he could rise
so
up from the ashes
Batboy,
to be vice president.
Batboy had originally planned on selecting Bigfoot, but then Bigfoot went missing for several months. There was a lot of pressure on Batboy to pick another running mate, but he stuck to his work, to his principles. I think that's supposed to be word.
Do you think typos are like intentional?
I hope so.
Okay.
This, I don't know. I don't see.
In this credible publication,
Look,
World
this
News.
is the only thing I get news from. Oh, PhD Abe still Secretary of State.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, I don't see any explanation as to where Bigfoot went.
Calling you out. Weekly World News.
Yeah, we need the
I
full
guess
story.
he just caught he was like on a sabbatical and he just caught wind that Bat Boy really needed him and he just, height-footed it back.
He answered the foot signal.
Yes. Weekly World News, get at us to write your stories.
So far, none of the merch has Bigfoot on it, but you can still get like the Bad Boy for President shirts and bumper stickers and pins.
I love it.
All right. Do you have any news? Is there anything even worth?
I mean, most of the news recently has been like such and such movie is coming to DVD or coming to 4K, and I'm just like, meh. The only thing that I saw is 2 updates on that Nicolas Cage movie that used to be called Wally's Wonderland is now called Willy's Wonderland.
They probably got sued or threatened to get
Yeah,
sued.
or something. And Bloody Disgusting you can look, they have like the poster.
Yes, I am very excited.
Yeah. That's pretty much all the news, I think.
All right. Shout outs. Kit, you want to go first?
I don't know. Watch the movie Orca. Orca just came out on Blu-ray and it rules. And it's about a killer whale.
Back in like the 70s, whenever they just started doing a bunch of like Jaws ripoffs.
They're like, that Jaws movie was really a thing. Let's do that with every sea creature.
Also, like Grizzly and.
Yes.
Orcas are so scary, though. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's why they should just be out in the ocean.
I mean, yes.
Just don't kill an orca's mom, okay? Or it'll hunt you down.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, this time is personal. Orca 4, this time is personal.
This time it's orcanal. No, that doesn't work.
You're fired.
Orcanal.
Alright, you got anything, Katie?
My shout out is Elijah Wood.
Alright, fair enough.
We recently we've been like I said, we've been watching movies every night, and the other night for some reason our double feature was The Taking of Deborah Logan, which I had not seen before.
Movie rules.
I saw I think Kit and somebody else talking about that on Twitter today. Maybe yesterday.
It was I don't know how to pronounce it. Aziz?
I've always seen that movie and I'm like I've just always been like skeptical because so many of those like exorcism movies came out around the same time and most of them are trash.
Well, I saw Kit commenting in it and I specifically did not comment so that I could talk about it here. It's a no from me. I did not like it. I think
unbelievable.
There were some like creepy things that happen in it, and I think the first like not to spoil, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the first like the movie before the first like hospital visit or whatever to me was like fine, but then the more that it went on and then they explained what was happening, I was just like, this is wasn't and then there was like a cool thing at the end, but overall not for me, I think.
I was gonna say it's like a decent movie that builds up to one scene, and that scene is so like, what the fuck, like that really sold it for me and took it to that next level to where I'm like, all right, yeah, that's a good movie, you should watch it.
I mean, I don't want to get into it too much because this is not about that movie. There was just like some stuff in it that was just so like we just ended up like laughing. Like, I don't know, it just is not my kind of movie, but there are a couple scenes in it that were like pretty like ugh. And then after that we watched Come to Daddy, which
was that
also
good?
rules.
We both really liked it, actually. I had no idea what it was about, so I think I recommend that one. That's why I say Elijah Wood. Obviously, he's like the main character. And then like pretty soon after we watched that, the King Cast podcast that Kit told me about, that is like very quickly become one of my favorites just because they have a lot of like big name people come on and talk about. So it's basically like the two hosts and then they bring just another person on to talk about like an adaptation that they pick, but it's not like they're gonna have Jack Nicholson come and talk about The Shining. It's just
it's just like fans,
completely unrelated. Yeah.
essentially.
So they had Elijah Wood on to talk about Misery, but it was funny because they just talked about he talked about like some of his experiences being like stalked by fans and that kind of thing. So just in general, I've really enjoyed his movies since I was like really young. So yeah.
He seems like a good dude, and he's been doing like a lot of like cool stuff for horror movies the last like decade, so
Yeah, 100%.
I'll back it even
We
though
stand.
Lord of the Rings is garbage.
No, we stand Frodo. We stand Frodo Baggins here.
I do. I really
Hard
do, though.
pass.
Well, I'll just ask him if he likes you.
He doesn't. Nobody likes me. Kid, have you watched anything lately, like, decent? Other than Orca?
What was it? I watched something the other day. I watched Do the Right Thing for the first time.
So good.
Which I highly recommend. Shit rules. I watched An Evening with Beverly Luff Lynn, which is from the same dude who did Greasy Strangler.
Oh.
Not as good as Greasy Strangler, but pretty good. Real weird, as one would expect. And then other than that, I watched the Dave Bautista, like, kids movie where he's a spy.
What?
Oh, wait, is it the...
My Spy?
I was thinking like the hotel movie he just did recently or whatever.
That one's good. I saw that in a theater. Hotel Artemis?
Yeah. I watched Mausoleum for like the first time.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Yeah, it is.
Very fucking weird. And then I watched I watched them back to back because I hadn't seen them yet, but I watched the Scream Queen documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
It's brutal.
Yeah, it is super sad. And
Yeah, I haven't gotten my feelings up enough to watch it.
it's good, but it's like, I was like, I had like time to kill, and I was like, well, I'll watch like, I'll just, because I assumed it was going to be about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and it's very much not a lot about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, just like kind of tangentially. But it gets like way into kind of like the AIDS crisis in the 80s, and like it's pretty sad. And then I was like, well, I'll watch To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story to cheer myself up. Nope. Get like a fucking like half hour about like how shitty it was coming back from like his like burn accident. But it's really good. It's worth watching. But like, oh man, they were both super sad for like a good middle chunk of them. I guess I've been like trying to rep more kind of bands on here because I've been putting songs at the end of the episodes, but all bands are terrible and everybody's the worst. So it's getting hard because.
I have a music recommendation.
No, go for it. I'm gonna let me.
Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Dance all the time.
I'm gonna say this band called, I think it's Doolhof, Doolhof. It's Will Brooks from Dialect, and then Aaron Turner from like Isis and Sumac. Some other guy. Huh. It's like a live thing they did at Roadburn in 2019. It's just this weird fucking album. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's on Bandcamp on Siege Records, SIGE Records. I don't know. I back it. It's just more weird shit from Aaron Turner, and I like Dialect a lot, so check it out. What do you got, Katie?
I didn't understand any of those words.
I didn't assume you would.
The new Hum album.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea Hum was a band until they released this album, and everyone knew that Hum was a band except me, I guess.
Well, because they haven't made music in like a really long
it's been
time.
Like 20 years.
Yeah, and they still really have that like set like the same sound or whatever, and I really enjoyed it. And since I never listen to music or talk about music, I was like, haha, I have a music this week.
I have a music.
My joke with Katie is that we both like a lot of the same bands, but all of the bands that she likes that I like are from like 2002.
And it's like not, it's on a, like, it's correct. I like almost never like everything I listen to is like albums from like 2007 and earlier or whatever. Yeah,
like maybe 3 of those bands currently release music.
yeah. But I don't really know if I would count Hum, because that's like, it still sounds very much like when music comes out that still sound, I don't know, it's like it has to still sound like that time frame, or else I'm like so I don't know.
All right, so next week, assuming it stays on YouTube, we're gonna do Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror.
Yes.
Very excited. Get some DDP on this fucking podcast finally.
Finally.
I'm gonna tweet at him, see if he wants to come on. He'll ignore us like Ice-T and Snoop Dogg did.
We can talk to him about DDP yoga.
I'm gonna see if I could get Snoop Dogg and DDP to come on the next episode.
Should be a cinch.
I would lose my mind.
I love it.
Alright, so yeah, watch that. Buy our shirts at storefrontier.com/IHopeYouSuffer. Still donating money. Oh yeah, I was gonna say that album I recommended, the Dualhoff album, is like all of the proceeds from it are going to like Reclaim the Block and like a bunch of Black Lives Matter stuff. So
oh, nice.
money's going to a good cause as well. All right, leave us ratings and reviews on, I don't know, whatever lets you do that. Tell us
everything.
Tell us your favorite Fall Out Boy song.
That's not necessary.
100%.
Unless the answer is none.
Yeah, it's 100%. Gonna be.
I would like to see a review from us that's like 5 stars and then the comment is none.
I feel like that's like somebody will leave us a review now that'll just be that. Follow us on Twitter at IHopeYouSuffer, Instagram at IHopeYouSuffer Podcasts. Listen to Kids' other podcast, Riff Raff. Sometime they may make new episodes, same as my podcast, 8K Movie Club. We may make a new episode at some point.
Maybe.
We'll see. Everything in the world is terrible, and it's
a lot.
Yeah, everything's a lot.
Not getting better.
No, it is not. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face on the things.
You know.
Commission art from her when she's not backlogged.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Katie's got places to be. I hope you suffer, but why?
Fornicator.
3 tough meat shakes.
Oh, yes.
It's just like really old meat. Yeah. It's been left out.
Chunky, green, moldy,
hardened meat
in the sun.
We made Beyond Burgers the other day, and Caitlin was like, "I'll just blend it up." She's like, "Do you want it in like liquid form?" And I was like, "Oh."
What?
It's like
Wait, why?
I do not need a real meat shake in my life. I don't remember what we were joking about something, and she was like, said something.
Oh, okay, I thought it was like
no,
a real.
No.
Do you want me to blend it up?
Because I feel like if that ever happened, I would try it and just vomit everywhere.
I feel like I would definitely try it.
Yeah, if you're still listening to this, Kit and I were on Diarrhea Doom. Go listen to it. Our episode came out today, so if you're listening to this, go listen to the Diarrhea Doom episode we did.
It's Dear Journal. I thought you said diarrhea.
Diarrhea of Doom. To me, Kit's new podcast.
I was gonna say the new band, Diarrhea Doom.
All right, bye.